Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Pablo Troncoso, and I'm the National Sales Director and Direct to Unit Trust Financial Group, and I'm humbly your host for this call. I'm also going to be joined with none other than Andreina Troncoso, my wonderful wife. And boy, do we have a great call lined up for you. I certainly hope you've got your pen and pad ready because, we don't want you to miss the relevant information that we're going to go over here today, okay? If you're invited to participate in this call, it's because you've just joined Unitrust and actually become contracted with us, and for that we're so grateful and gracious. We graciously welcome you. You've made a wise decision. I don't say that because I'm supposed to as part of the executive leadership team. I say that with the truest and utmost sincerity, okay? The purpose of this call is really to lay out the foundation of this journey, and if done with purpose, can propel your career, okay? It can propel your life, and it can propel your desires to a level never seen before. Now, this is a very serious call, and I would urge you that if you're not fully intentional with your focus and your attention, that you take just a step back and that you really consider shutting out any distractions, because if you miss this, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever gone to a movie theater and watched people and as you're waiting for the big show to start, and then here it goes, you go through and the movie has started and you watch people walk in 5 to 10 minutes after the movie has started, and based on what you've seen in the movie already, you think, oh man, they're going to be so very lost. Well, and then, of course, as in so many movies as they do, they tie the very beginning of the movie into the very end. Except in real life, in real life, right, when you miss the foundation and the purpose of anything started, you very seldom, if at all, make it to the end of your movie. And people choose to live their lives that way. So what do I mean by foundation? On this call, we're going to go over the expectations as a contracted team member. And I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite parts of what we do. And I say that because we will go through a process on this call that will raise your level of awareness of the possibilities within this exciting unit trust world that you're entering. And your awareness level will dictate your learning model and your ability to stay true to your self-image. You see, it was February 2013 when I had made a decision. I had made a promise to myself, a promise that at the end, and at a specific time, that I didn't realize when I was making that promise, it was going to change the course of my life and would lead me right to where I'm at today. It was after running a highly successful 6+ figure mortgage company in my mid-20s for approximately 5 years, and knowing that I had the ability to build something by utilizing the skills that were passed down to me from my mentors, but I was not versed in how to overcome unforeseen catastrophic losses. What am I saying? I had only been programmed at that point in my career to do what is expected of most people who in their mid-20s do without the appropriate leadership in their life. And so I did just that. I lost everything. And so when it was announced on September 15th, 2008, that CNN, Lehman Brothers, at the time one of the largest financial institutions in the world, holding over $600 billion in assets, that's billion with a B, was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, my heart sank into my stomach. And so that collapse of the economy of the strongest thriving nation in the world, the United States of America, had begun. And 1 year later, I had lost my business, I had lost my homes, I had lost my cars, I had lost my dignity. But Andreina, I did not lose my will to fight. I still had a burning desire to do and be and have more, but my ego was very badly bruised. So with my tail tucked between my legs, I joined the corporate workforce to earn a steady pay and some decent benefits. And guys, I did that for the next 3 years. I traded my dream for money, I was going to climb that corporate ladder, but what I failed to realize was that that corporate ladder was perched up against the wrong building. And as you climb this ladder, there are always those at the top fighting to keep a title as their only validation of their worth. Yet their levels of influence are so grossly unparalleled by their compensation, it's really a mystery how corporations stay in business at all. But that's a topic for another call. So after 3 years of climbing and fighting and limited growth, I had had enough. I remember how diligently I actually worked on my resume to get the job in the first place. Guys, I put so much time and effort, and this might speak to you. I put so much time and effort in my resume day in and day out for about a month. I had a writer assist me on the content layout. I even hired a graphic designer to help visually spice it up, right, so that it stood apart from other candidates. And here I was, still unhappy and still underemployed and basically broke still 3 full years later. Now stay with me, okay? Stay with me, because the promise I made at this point was life-changing. Even though I didn't realize it, it would alter the course of my life for the next 3 years. I made a choice and a promise to myself that I was never going to work on my resume ever again for the rest of my life. And Jim Rohn says, you don't have to live your next 5 years like you lived the last 5 years. If you want to have, do, or be more, you have to become more. So for things to change, you have to change. For things to improve, you have to improve. And so that promise got me on a path where I never looked back. And I don't say this to impress you, but I say this to impress upon you that if I can do it, you can do it. A down and out citizen of the rat race of corporate America at the time, if I can do it, so can you. But you don't have to waste 3 years of your life. You can start right now. And that's why I'm glad that you're on this call. And I promise you this, that Pete and that Brandon and Jeff and Andreina and myself, we're here with you on this journey. You see, and I want you to really pay attention to this, because this is so paramount. And so what I'm about to say should echo in your heart as you're developing as an agent and as a business builder with us. Are you ready? Write this down. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. I'll say it again. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Now, what does this mean exactly? I mean that we, all of us, are responsible to you, not for you. We're going to equip you the best we know how, and I'm responsible for that. In fact, I hold myself fully accountable for that, to add value to you and to equip you with all the principles, the tools, and the philosophies and trainings that you need to succeed. But I can only lead you to the water. Now, I'd like to bring Andreina into, on the line to discuss the very important key expectations. And it would be very wise of you to still be taking notes, because up until now, I've only given you some inspiration, hopefully. But this is the key teaching piece of this call. And who better than somebody that's been practicing the art of discipline and repetition of schedule, training, and performance than a former national swimmer of her country of Venezuela. And use that discipline to find herself a better way in these United States of America by learning English and earning herself a full ride at Missouri State University, and has joined me in the business to help add value to you. My beautiful wife, Andreina, are you there?
Thank you, Pablo. Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for that intro. That was very sweet. And Pablo, we always talk about starting with the why. And every time I hear the story you shared about never working on your resume again, I'm reminded that all those steps you took actually led you to me, as your proud wife. And, I don't mean to get all mushy on this call, but I sense that you have created a vision for our team as champions. And so if you allow me, Pablo, I'm just going to get right into it. And here are the key steps that we are all judged on that Pablo was talking about. So have your pens ready. Okay, and let me ask you a question, and I love this question because Brandon usually talks about it. In fact, I remember him talking about it at a conference. And that is, how simple it is to bake a cake when you have a recipe. Well, you all know that every single ingredient is necessary for that cake to turn out right. And not only each ingredient is necessary, so is the measurement of that ingredient. So if you forget, let's say, the baking powder, well, the cake would not rise. Or if you place too little flour, well, the cake will lack consistency.
Andreina,
So, yes.
if I could add, and so even though each ingredient represents a fraction of the whole, forgetting or mismeasuring, right, won't only ruin a fraction of the cake, it can and most likely will ruin the whole thing.
That's very true, Pablo. And oh, by the way, the alternative ingredients are not the answer either. I'll tell you a funny story. My mother, who's a professional baker, once baked a cake using what she thought was sugar, but when it came out of the oven, which also took like an hour more than it usually takes to cook to bake, that cake was hard as a brick. And the bag of salt sat half empty in the pantry. So, that's my long way of saying every piece we go over is expected for success. So let's make a cake instead of bricks. Okay? So the first thing that I want to go over, and it's probably the most important and also most simple, is association. That's the first step we're going to go over today. And when we talk about association, it means intentionally surrounding yourself and actively being involved in the coaching, in the trainings, and in the events that Unit Trust offers. And here they are. It's the conference calls. As you all know, we have 5 per week, 3 on Wednesday, also known as training day, 1 on Friday, and 1 on Saturday. Each call is about 30 to 60 minutes long. Okay.
And Andreina, can I just say, we do not, and I repeat, we do not require you to come into an office during the week. In fact, we don't require you to do any of these steps. But in order for us to guide you, we will ask if you're holding yourself accountable for accomplishing these steps week in and week out, these calls and so forth. And it's very easy to know who's associating and who's not. And I will ask you, if you are in remember the $3,000 a month club or the $10,000 a month club, right?
Yes, thank you, Pablo. So the first call we have is our builders call on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. All times will be Eastern Time. Okay, and this call is for agents looking to build a business where they can enjoy a passive income earning overrides. And Pete and Brendan go over the key success on this call weekly. All right. Next, we have the 12 p.m. leaders call on the same day. And this call has the leaders usually discussing leader board members, who's leading the path with sales and agency buildings, leadership topics such as the book of the month, personal growth and development, and so on. So it's with this call, without a doubt, it's a key ingredient. Okay. And the last call on Wednesday is a sales training call at 1 p.m. On this call, we go over things that will inspire and train you for the production that is going to put some size into your bank account. Okay, we usually have guests on the calls, including agents that have been in business, or have been having success in the field. One day even you could be a guest on the call, telling us how it's done. So make sure to be on it weekly. All right. Then we have Friday, which is an added bonus call, where one of our leaders discusses topics such as role-playing, in-home appointments, advanced market sales like annuities and indexed universal life policies, and more, okay? And then lastly, every Saturday, prior to you jumping into your dial time to set appointments, a different guest will host the 8:30 a.m. dial team call, and this is usually a 15, 30-minute call geared, at motivating you for the 3, 4, 5 hours that you'll be setting up for your week of production.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now,
then
real quick, Andreina, you're setting your appointments, guys and gals, is the lifeblood of your business. this call, particularly the Saturday AM, this call is going to jumpstart the number one most important and immediate money making activity. So be on that. Okay, don't discount that. Be on that call. And one other thing I'd like to add is that on our builders call, which is the Wednesday 10 a.m. call, um, guys, that for the most part, probably 99% of the time, our our agency development director, Jeff Molman, is going to be heading up those calls. And Jeff's an incredible leader and is building an incredible business with us. And so make sure that you dial into that call. And but anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Pablo. All right, so that was the association ingredient of this call, the first one. And then next is one of my favorites, which is step number 2, coaching and counseling. Okay? And let me just say this. Everyone knows of the swimmer Michael Phelps, right? The most decorated Olympian of all time with 22 Olympic gold medals. Well, as a former swimmer, I know that the bond between a coach and an athlete is sacred, and both acknowledge that value. So when my coach mapped out an off-season plan, you know, it was expected that we could follow, that we would follow that plan if we wanted to be considered for the team the following season. And so when it was time to return from summer break, I would go back home and then come back to the United States in August. Coach knew who had slacked and who hadn't. And it was never a surprise who would get coach's attention. And so I have to tell you, every year after our summer break, I would feel sorry for the ones that struggled with the discipline of season, because you would see, squander talent and even people lose scholarships. So in this business, Pablo, Pete, Jeff, Brennan, they are your coaches. We fully expect to counsel with you almost daily. And again, remember, like Pablo said earlier in this call, you are in business for yourself, but not by yourself. But here's what's different, okay? As a swimmer, I have taken the skill of discipline and transferred it to our career. And, I truly see and I believe that it has altered the levels of my results. And so, our schedule, and I'm looking at it right now in front of my computer, it's 100% blocked for specific activities. And I also learned this from Pete and Brennan when I spent some time with them, looking at their calendar. I mean, there's a purpose for every block in your calendar, okay? And so what that means is that our time is extremely valuable, just like a good doctor's appointment book is filled for months out. But you didn't know this. The system that Pete and Brendan have created is modeled for efficiency. All right? And what it means is that as coaches and as your upline, we want to maximize every minute that we share with you. And we've learned this, Pablo, that the truest sense of coaching is to make the unconscious conscious. And so, guys, we're here to raise your levels of awareness. So,
Hold up, Andreina. Hold up. I'm really and absolutely and I hope everyone's taking notes, but I'm loving what you're putting out there. But just for sake of simplicity, Andreina, and the fact that you and I could go into an hour plus conversation on this alone, our mentors outside of Unitrust suggest that we charge for our coaching services. And we choose not to. But also because as part of our agreement and commitment to you, my faith is in the system. It's in all the ingredients of this recipe that Andreina's talking about. So when you call one of your uplines, here's what I would expect. Are you ready? I would expect 10 to 15 minutes of time, unless we've scheduled otherwise. So come prepared with your question. Come prepared with your challenge. and make sure that those questions count. A mistake I made when I first started in the business is I was very lazy, and I wouldn't go to the website to check for things like the conference call times and appointment setting scripts. And so I would repeatedly reach out to my upline or my mentor for these things. And so pretty soon my mentor wasn't that quick to answer my calls or that quick to return them. And so come to the call that you're reaching out with possible solutions. Guys, that is such an important leadership aspect. Come to the call with your challenge and your questions with possible solutions. Think through them. And chances are you already know the answer, but you're searching for assurance. Now, we will give you all the reassurance and the encouragement that you need. Make no doubt about it. But we will also help you find the confidence that lives within you. Now listen, we spend more than 15 minutes with our agents. Of course we do. Of course we do. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't come prepared. You're a business owner. You're a business owner. I'm gonna make you the best damn business owner that I can, and that doesn't happen with me being an order taker or a customer care center to everyone on the team, because you see how a team of large numbers and a team with large number of agents can go uncoached if that's what I become. All right, and I spent probably an hour with an agent just this morning before we even got on any of these calls. But I know that he's putting in the right measurements of ingredients into his cake. Now, just remember, this is an expectations call, right? Are we having fun? Andreina, what's next?
I sure am having fun, Pablo. So next, yes, it's another one of my favorites. Really, my true favorite, I think, is this one. And it's step number 3, which is personal development or investing in yourself. Pablo, I remember it was about 2 years ago that I had picked up a book and really wanted to gift it to someone that I worked with. And that's, I just really saw potential in him. And, he always had a bright smile and was always very positive. So I asked him one day if he would stop by my office because I had something for him. And, he never showed up. And so I saw him, not too long after that, and he apologized and he said he'd come by and see me on a particular day. And again, he never showed up. So, and you remember the story, Pablo, that book was later sitting on my kitchen table back at home. And at that time, you were my boyfriend. We weren't even engaged. And you asked me if that book was mine. And I explained to you, Pablo, that it was meant for someone else, and that since they had dropped the ball, I would gladly give it to you.
And hey, I am sure glad that you did. And what was the name of that book, Andreina?
Well, the name of that book was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
That book brought about such awareness of what it takes to accomplish goals and reach certain levels of success. I mean, we studied that thing for, first time we opened it for about 2 months, and it's a masterpiece. And if you've spent any time with me at all in the past, this will not be the first time you're hearing this, but in fact, I am intentionally planning on going back again after reading a current piece I'm into now called Intentional Living by John C. Maxwell. And we love John too, don't we?
Yes, we sure do. But we, so much that about a couple months after we had gotten back from that Maui trip, we both knew that we had to commit to getting better, and that there had to be a plan for a life, to live a life of growth and significance. And so, Pablo, I think you had a very important call that you told me about a few days later. Do you want to tell him about it?
I sure do. I sure do. Hold on one second. I had just finished paying down some debt that I had accumulated over time, and so I was feeling really good. I was thinking, next we may try to pay off your car. But another thing that was left on my radar and was vibrating at a much higher frequency was our growth plan, and, and that we really didn't have one. And so I ended up speaking to Macy Del Valle at the John Maxwell team, and about 1 week later, you and I were officially signed up as members of that team, and the price of that program was equal to the balance of your vehicle at the time, and we chose to grow ourselves over paying off your car, and I wouldn't change one single thing about that decision. In fact, we finally got to meet John in person just over a month ago, and spent an entire week with him and our mentorship team down in Orlando, and that was just absolutely life-changing, indescribable, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Pablo, I mean, it really was. I would say it was life-changing and truly mind-blowing because, just when you think that you are on the right track on your personal growth journey, you realize how much more there is out there available to all of us who want to be, do, and become more, just like Jim Rohn says. And there's, to me, I feel like there's such an abundance of resources and such a need for growth. I just couldn't imagine succeeding in this business with unit trust without investing in myself and feeding my brain every day with positive and valuable concepts and philosophies that our mentors have taught us.
You make a really good point about investing in yourself. Guys, that's so key. And actually, while we were down there, at this conference, and again, this isn't to impress you guys. This is to impress upon you that we're just doing what others have shown to lead them to success. And while we were down there, we enrolled in a mentorship program that I know is going to add value to all of our team members, not just us. And we share the story to impress upon you that if we can do it, I fully believe in you as a brand new agent, as a seasoned agent, as a brand new team member to the Unit Trust team. I believe that you can do it as well. And yes, so that wraps up, guys, the first 3 sections: associating, coaching and counseling, and personal development. Andrea, I want you to tell them about live events like boot camp trainings and conference. In fact, we just had a boot camp yesterday in Orlando. A very successful one. We had some great turnout there, and we're looking at some real winners coming out of that meeting. And we've got an incredible one coming up here in Baltimore, Maryland, next week as well. But talk to them about these live events, will you?
Absolutely, Pablo. I would love to. In fact, this is also one of my favorite topics, and I know it's one of yours as well. So a very, a very critical key to association, guys, is getting to our live training events anytime that they're close to you, okay? And by close to you, and from what we've learned from Pete and Brandon, is that, a quick flight of even, a quick flight or even a 2 to 4 hour drive. These are typically on Thursdays, right? And that's with purpose, because we want to make sure not to have them on the days where you would be out on sales calls or on conference call days, okay? So for example, in just a month alone, we're doing trainings in Baltimore, Orlando, Atlanta, Denver, Colorado, okay? So again, this happens, with a purpose. And so what happens is that we put on business overview and meeting trainings for agents that are new in the business or are taking a look at us for the first time, and this is to give them an idea of how Unit Trust operates, all right? So we strongly suggest that you go to these meetings and you'll also have a chance to get, some good face time with some of the leadership, okay? And if you're building an agency, guys, you most definitely want to send your new hires out to these boot camps and introduce themselves to Jeff, Pete, Brendan, Pablo, and everybody else on the team, okay? Because it'll really go a long way. Pablo, I know you really wanted to talk about conference.
I I'd love to, and thanks so much for talking about those boot camps and those live events. There's just two more pieces that we expect and and watch our team on that I'd like to discuss a little bit further before we move on onto conference, and that's placing a standing lead order and then your actual production. Okay. In fact, these two things I do a separate call. Um, I do a separate call on because in my schedule I label these as green items, meaning this is what will make me generate revenue today. Okay, that call we're going to also do that once weekly, and so to make 100% sure you're on that call. So we're going to do an activity call as one of the things that you're judged on. It's going to be the activity based on placing a standing lead order as well as your production. So we're going to have a separate expectations call for that, and then another one for the activity for building a business, building an agency. We're going to have a separate call for that one, and Jeff and I are going to do um, a call together on that. But now, yes, Andreina, I'd love to discuss conference. Guys, this is, all of these pieces are my favorite, but this one that I'm talking about right now is my most favorite. Um, but by now, by all means, go ahead and tell them what it's all about. And please, everyone, take notes because this one holds a very special meaning, guys. Conference is our main event, and it's held twice a year. We just had our very first Unit Trust conference this past August in Atlanta, and it was hosted at the W. I know there's a whole bunch of them. The W Midtown. It's spectacular. And the next one is in February in Jacksonville. Okay. Jacksonville, Florida. This is the culmination, guys, of all the associations because it's the big show. You get training, inspiration, coaching, association, mentorship, awards and recognition, and even an amazing dinner and a celebration on that second night. I mean, Pete and Brandon know how to throw a party, and along with their staff, they've put so much time and effort in putting these together, and you get so much value packed into a 2-day conference. Okay, I remember you telling me a story about how just going, to one of these, or I was telling you the story, Andrea, about how when I went to one of these, I picked up a golden nugget, just one little golden nugget from one of these workshops, Andrea, and we happened to be dating during that point in time. But why don't you tell it to them from your perspective?
Yes, Pablo. I actually remember you got back from one of your very first conferences ever. And I didn't go to that conference with you, but I don't remember us talking about it that much because we had just started dating, but you didn't have to say much, Pablo. You immediately put everything you had learned at that conference into practice. And that was from that little nugget that you picked up at one of the workshops. And what I remember is that after you got back, you were nonstop, booking appointments, sitting in the homes, helping families. And I think it was, in like a matter of 4 months, you have done so much in production that you won that trip, the trip to Hawaii.
Well,
Mm.
yes, and what you didn't know, what you didn't know then was that I wasn't exactly sure how I was even going to get to that conference because I was coming off of a very bad prior year financially, of not being in the business. And so I was literally down to probably my last couple $1,000s on my credit card. But I really, really knew that I had to get to that event because my life was already changing and the people I was meeting. In fact, now that I think of it, that was the conference that I think I met Pete and Brandon. No, it wasn't. It was the next one where I met those guys for the first time. Well, but let me tell you, I think, let me tell it. And because you know what, Andreina, I think it might stick a little more because I was in the same shoes that so many on this call are probably on or have been at some point. But Here's the deal. My awareness levels were honed in on a specific learning, um, I'm learning a specific concept, I guess, to use in my in-home presentation. I knew that if I could find that, it would be all the difference. And so I was waiting for it and waiting for it. The first day went by at that conference. The first day went by and I didn't find that nugget. The second day had kicked off and still nothing. And it wasn't until about halfway through the second day where I sat in a workshop that Larry was giving, and he taught me something that I have to tell you, my brain almost exploded as I sat there feverishly. I still have the notes, feverishly taking notes and audio recording. I got out of that workshop and I remember talking with one of my team members saying, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I was looking for. And that was on a Saturday in August. And that Monday when I was back and running appointments, I wrote $10,000 in annual premium. That's the most I'd ever written in an entire week, let alone an entire month. And in fact, between that mid-August till the end of the year, I had written enough premium, I believe it was somewhere around 80,000 that had issue paid, and that was enough to get us uh, on our first carrier trip. Do you remember what I said?
You know, I remember we weren't even engaged yet, and you told me that you were going to take me to Maui for 4 nights, and we stayed at the Ritz-Carlton, all expenses paid, and I believed you, Pablo. I believed you because I saw you working really hard every single day until you won that trip. I remember that.
That's that's right. That's right. And the premium uh, that I wrote and I placed, I mean, it was a significant amount of commissions, guys, and everyone on this call has the same exact opportunity. There was nothing special about me, um, but we were sent on an extravagant trip on top of all of that. Now imagine. Now here's again, stick with me. This is why I'm telling you this. Imagine, just imagine, had I not gone to that conference. If I did not have the awareness to know that I needed to be there, it didn't matter what it took. I was going to get there. And that measly ticket that I had to buy to be invited in the doors was $139. Imagine if I didn't go. So when you hear us talking about get your ticket to conference, at least when you hear me say it, what I'm really saying, what I'm emphatically shouting from the rooftop is, let's get you going. Let's stimulate and energize your business so that you can have a breakthrough in your career. I mean, let's really have you conquer the things that have been holding you back and have you summit your Everest. Pete and Brandon aren't selling conference tickets to generate revenue for the company. In fact, they're losing money. The dinner alone, I know this for a fact, costs over $75 a head. They're not making money on selling conference tickets, and neither am I. Neither are we. But what we are doing is we're going into the casino of life, and we're betting on the fact that if you get to conference, no matter what it takes, your awareness level will hone in right on that station that you're seeking, and it will play that music so clear and so brilliantly to you that you'll spread your wings when you leave that event. You'll enter conference as a caterpillar. I guarantee you that. Doesn't matter how many times you've been, and you'll leave a monarch. Now just imagine if you bring 5 to 10 people with you. That same transformation takes place. It is absolutely life-changing. And to think it only cost me $139, imagine if I didn't go. Now, by now, Andreina's probably already sent you an email um, with the link and a code. But Andreina, I want to make a point here, and this is a very serious point. This is not a silly question. to you, when do people start training for a marathon?
I would say the moment they register for it. And I say this, I mean, I don't know how many of you have ran a marathon or any other type of races, but for those of you who haven't, guys, you don't understand what it does to your mind once you register, right? And for those who have ran a marathon, you do understand. It transforms the way you think. It transforms the way you train and the way you organize your time. And by now I have raced triathlons for the past couple of years, I would say, but it took me many years to finally do the first one. And I always ask myself why. And then I came to the realization that I had never registered for one. And the day that I finally decided to register for my first one, I didn't even have a bike. And I didn't know how I was going to train. But magic started working after I registered. Magic started working after I registered. And all of a sudden, now you find a way to train, you find the money to buy the equipment, you make time for it because you know you are already in. And once you're in, there's no looking back.
That's
I didn't want to be the last one on that race. I knew I had to finish it.
that's
and again, and that's because you're in. And when you're in, there's no looking back.
that's absolutely right. The moment someone physically, emotionally, and financially commits to their race, boom, it's done. They're in. And so here's what I'm going to do. Because you're on this call, and because you're still on the line, I haven't lost anyone, have I? I certainly hope not. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you a killer offer. Because you're on this call still. I know in my heart of hearts you desire something different and a real change in your life. And it's going to take some changes. Remember the cake recipe? Yes? Good. Okay. So what I'm going to do is give you this killer offer. By the way, how much do you think I would have paid for that conference ticket, the one that I went to, that gave me what I needed to get me to Maui with my then girlfriend that I made my wife? Knowing what I know now, how much would I have paid? Knowing what I know now, the impact going to an event like that and picking up literally a golden nugget. One, how much would I pay today for that event? $500? $2,500? $5,000? In a few short months, I made $50,000 with a gold nugget that I picked up from that event. And I want you to know that I'm putting so much time into this because if it doesn't sink in how important this is to you lasting here, because you know you need it. You know you need to invest in yourself to grow. We've already gone over that. But when fear and doubt start to enter our conscious awareness, logic leaves. And man, I don't have another hour to go over that teaching with you. And Andreina knows I would love to, but we just don't have the time on this call. So here's the killer offer. By now, you should have an email from Andreina in your inbox. Don't go scurrying looking for it now. And if you didn't receive it, please just send us an email or a text. In that email is a registration form where I'm going to share with you a discounted ticket to our next conference for the price of only $100. But here's the catch. It's only available for the next 24 hours. That's it. You see, I only have so many of these available. And since I do these calls weekly, I offer them up to people that jump on them right away. And so next week, a new batch of people will come in. And the following week, a new batch. And the following and the following. But so this offer, it's only available today. Otherwise, it's the law of diminishing returns. Your intent to buy may get blocked by your fear and doubt, and before you know it, you're knocking on a different door altogether. Okay? So take advantage of it. Prove it to yourself. Prove it to Pete and to Brandon. Prove it to Andrina and myself, but prove it to yourself. Prove that you're going to stand for something and fall for nothing.
Pablo, I love, the fact that you're saying prove it to yourself. More than prove it to Pete, Brendan, Jeff, Pablo. Prove it to yourself, because this is the time to do that, for yourself, prove it to your family, and to those you love the most. Prove that you are committing to a better you, okay? But Pablo, we did cover a lot on this call, the importance of association, coaching and counseling, personal development, and of course, conference. And I have to say, these are all my favorites.
Right on. Well, fantastic. Guys, this is where we get to open it up for some Q&A. If you've got a question, just go ahead and jump in. We've got about 10 minutes or so to go over some questions.